Welcome back. We're still with Russell Quirk. Russell, and all of you fantastic people out there, let's have a look at this. Is this good enough? This is our Deputy Prime Minister and the Housing Secretary doing what they call the media round. It was Angela Rayner's turn yesterday morning. So she went on to the various shows, you know, Laura Kunsberg on the BBC, Trevor Phillips on Sky News, etc. You know, there's always one minister who has to do it. So she had quite a busy day because, of course, fell into her lap, unfortunately, the need to sort of explain what the government was doing about Syria, because it was only yesterday that it finally looked as if Assad was finished. Until then, there was a sort of slight hope that he might hang on, but he's gone. So she had to explain that. Then she had to explain the housing crisis and what's going on in terms of her plans to turn the entire country into a council estate. But she wants to build 1.5 million homes. And Russell will come in on this, but he always makes the really, really good point. Government says, we're going to build 1.5 million homes. No, you're not. You're a government. Governments don't build houses. So there's an awkward reality there. Can you get someone else to build 1.5 million homes in double quick time? I doubt it. But this is a discussion about the quality of Labour's front bench, and this is one of the luminaries of Labour's front bench. This is the Deputy Prime Minister, the second most powerful person in all of this country. She's also the Housing Secretary. Very, very important ministerial job too. So here she is first, explaining to a grateful nation the situation in Syria and what the Labour government is doing about it. Take it away, Angela.
The Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, is with us in the studio this morning. Welcome to you. What's the latest information that the government has? Can you confirm that Assad is gone?
Well, we don't know. The situation on the ground is fast-moving at the moment. If the Assad regime has fallen, then we welcome that news. What we want to see is a political solution along the lines of what the UN resolution is, and we're working with our allies.
Are you sure, though, if this rebel group does take charge, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, they have connections and roots with groups like Al-Qaeda. Are you sure, as a government, they'd be a better option than the Assad regime?
Well, again, working with allies on the UN resolution, we've got to have a government in Syria, a political solution that protects civilians and infrastructure, because, as we've seen with the Assad regime, it has been unstable. We want to see that stability, and we'll work towards that with our allies.
Bloody dar. I mean, what the hell is that all about? All she's doing there, she's being drilled by the media advisors, the press office. Right, just say something about the UN resolution, and we're sticking to that, and we're working with allies. Very difficult, fast-moving situation. In other words, she didn't have the first clue what she was talking about. Later on that morning, yesterday morning, she went on to Trevor Phillips's show on Sky News. And if you thought that she couldn't do much worse than what she did on the BBC, take a look at this.
Where the 2.5 million immigrants that are in Rachel Reeves' budget figures going to turn up? Where are they going to live?
Well, there's plenty of housing in the UK, but the houses, especially social
hang on. You can't, on the one hand, say we've got to build this 1.5 million houses, and then say there's plenty of housing already.
There is plenty of housing, Trevor, already, but there's not enough for the people that desperately need it. So the homes, especially under our affordable homes programme, which is social and affordable housing, they will be there for people who desperately need them, local people. We've already outlined how we're going to support veterans and people who are fleeing domestic violence.
Okay.
Councils need homes for people that are on the waiting list. I've already announced changes to the right to buy, making sure they have
this doesn't quite make sense.
So that we can deliver the houses they desperately need.
Deputy Prime Minister, doesn't quite make sense. You start the interview by telling me that there's a housing crisis. When I remind you that you have said yourselves as a government, we're going to need 2.5 million migrants. Some of them, by the way, people are going to build the houses. Suddenly, there's a lot of housing. Where are these people going to go?
Well, Trevor, first of all, when you say about building as well, the previous government did use migrant labour far too much instead of actually building skills here in the UK. I've announced £140 million for new construction hubs so that we can train people here to deliver those housing. So I don't accept that we're going to bring migrants in for that. We've always said that actually we need to skill our own people up. But equally, we need to build the homes that people need.
So, there are plenty of homes, she says, but we have a housing crisis. Plenty of houses, plenty of homes in this country, but we have a housing shortage. Which is it, Angela? You're going to have to make your mind up. Do we have a housing shortage, or do we have too many houses? That's what you said. You said we have plenty of houses, but we've got a housing shortage. Which is it? Don't you know? And don't you think, Russell, that she should get a better answer for Trevor Phillips's excellent point? Said if you crunch the numbers, 5 out of every 7 of these alleged new homes that the government's going to build will go to migrants.
Yeah.
She didn't have an answer for that.
So that she's completely painted into a corner here on the basis that, as we said earlier, Rachel Reeves' own budget said that we will see over 2 million migrants come into this country, net, so more, but obviously some will leave, before 2029. So if Angela Rayner manages to get someone to build the 1.5 million houses that they promised as a potential government in order to be elected government, then almost the entirety of those homes, because there's about 2.5 people per home, the entirety of all those new homes will go to migrants, right? Because otherwise, as Trevor Phillips makes the apt point, where will those people go, right? So if the people arrive, they have to be housed. So they're going to be housed in those homes. So Angela Rayner, unfortunately, hasn't conflated the fact that on the one hand, the government has this open door policy, which the budget now reveals in stark light of day, I think, and is going to build houses, but now clearly realises insufficient for even just the migrants that are going to come to the country, let alone the 1.2 million people on the housing waiting list for social housing and affordable housing, plus veterans and so on. So there is a huge gap here, a huge gap. We used to think it was Diane Abbott that was the laughingstock of the Labour front bench when it came to maths. Enter Angela Rayner as the new Diane Abbott.
I'm going to give her a little slack here. The best hope we've got here is we have a woman who's hopelessly inarticulate and cannot explain, satisfactorily exactly what this house building programme is all about. It's either that, or she just doesn't really have a plan at all. She doesn't seem to understand that the main reason we're having to build a lot of houses because we now know millions of migrants have been let in year in, year out. So this is to house migrants and asylum seekers, probably.
Well, and who's going to pay for them, of course?
And by the way, what did you make of her expertise when it came to Syria?
Yes, it was somewhat wanting, wasn't it? I mean, and the fact that she thinks that this new regime going in, who are basically a load of tribal Islamists, are going to discover democracy all of a sudden. Go, do you know what? Why don't you decide whether you want to see it by way of the ballot box? Well, it's not going to happen, is it?
That's the Deputy Prime Minister, folks. I just didn't think it was good enough. It's just not good enough, is it?
Look, you wouldn't have them running a fruit stall, would you? Let alone our country.
Let me know what you think about Angela's terrible TV appearances yesterday.